Hey there, hey friends, Ken here. Happy Wednesday and welcome back, friends, for another creation video. Today we are tackling a mixed media project. Now, this is like the last field test, towards the last field test for the Crayola signature color pencils, which I've been working with for a while, and you can actually look forward to that review video being released this Friday. That's right, I'm gonna drop an additional video this week. It will be on this Friday. It will be the review for the signature color pencils just because I need to get caught up. Now, in this video, I am using a combination of color pencils because I always tell you guys your mediums will work together. Color pencils with other color pencils, watercolors with other watercolors, so on and so forth. So I'm using mainly the Crayola signature color pencils, but I'm going to augment those with like maybe one, two Faber-Castell Black Edition pencils, and also one Brute Pruner Macaron pencil. About 85% to 90% of this entire composition is going to be done with color pencils. And then I'm going to also be adding a little watercolor, a little gouache, as well as some oil pastels just to wrap everything up. Now, this illustration that I'm working on is a part of the food paint challenge. I'm not sure if it's this week, last week, or the week before, but I'm a part of the like text messaging chain, for the food paint challenge over on Instagram. And I'll get these messages that has the images for the weekend. And this one was right before the last one I received. And I've seen other artists post their version, and I just thought that this would be a really cool project to tackle as far as mixed media was concerned. So, of course, I'm starting with the color pencils here. Now, I originally traced, or should I say, well, yeah, traced. I kind of blew the image up on the computer screen. I laid a white piece of paper on top and kind of made a tracing. And then I transferred that onto my watercolor paper simply so that I wouldn't have a bunch of crazy lines or erasures going on this paper. Now, the paper I'm working on is the Arteza 140 pound cold pressed acid free paper. Now, I actually purchased these linen bound sketchbooks about 3 years ago. What I've discovered over the time, especially as I get into this year where I am concentrating more and more on using up those older sketchbooks, is that this paper sizing will go bad. And I've heard other artists say it before, but I never actually had it happen to me until recently. And you're actually going to see when I go in to add the watercolor to the page where the sizing is bad at now. It is a great thing that once it dries, you really won't be able to tell that those issues are in the paper, but the fact that they are there as you're painting, as you're creating, is something that I definitely took note of. And as I said, this paper is about 3 years old, so it's definitely my suggestion, guys, that as you're buying your papers and your art supplies, buy what you need, buy what you can use, go ahead and use it up. Because sometimes being precious with those items and saving them could actually ruin them, and you won't be able to use them when they're at their best quality. So it's just something I kind of wanted to throw out there. Not to say that it will happen with every paper, but it definitely happened with this one. Now, this is a illustration of like marshmallow type candy that swirled around each other. It has these beautiful pastel tones of pinks, yellows, and blues. It's sort of a peach apricot type color, which I was able to represent easily from the color pencils, which was a really good thing. And that is one of the advantages of having a larger set of color pencils, is that it allows you to create more. Now, the Crayola, that's what I'm trying to say. The Crayola set that I'm actually testing here only has like 24 colors in it. And so I was able to pull like the pastel peach from that. I was able to pull like the pastel pinkish tone from that. But the yellow and the blue, I did have to pull from other sets because the two yellows that are in the signature set were much more saturated, much more golden, sun leaning than I needed them to be. So I did grab that yellow from the Faber-Castell Black Edition pencils. And then the blue, as I said earlier, came from the Brute Fronter Macaron, because the blues in the Crayola signature set, again, did not give me the tone that I really needed. Now, as I started out tackling this project, I was going to kind of take my time and start adding the shadows in, sort of color for color, section for section. And then as I continued to work, it kind of hit me that it made sense to go through and base my color down for the entire project. And then after I got a little bit of the color based for that particular area, I would add in a few shadows here and there, and then move on to base another candy or another piece of the illustration. Ironically enough, I went out on a limb here and decided that I was going to use violets. Now, in color pencil work, in alcohol marker work, and oil pastel work, when I'm not sure what colors I need in a shadow, I tend to automatically default to using like blues or blacks, maybe even dark browns. Well, I wanted to try something different, and I have been over the last couple of creations where I'm using violet and purples in my shadows, even if it requires me to mix it with a little blue just to keep color harmony. But I'm discovering that the purple in shadows is an amazing color, and it causes you to have more natural feeling, natural appearing shadows in a lot of cases than throwing in a black or a super dark blue wheel. And I'm loving the contrast that it had against the pastel tones. Now, the purple that I'm using for the shadows is like this desaturated, muted, kind of earthy, violet purple tone. And I did pull that pencil from the Faber-Castell Black Edition set as well, simply because I didn't have anything in the Crayola signature set that I wanted to use, considering that I was trying not to use black or blue, which of course are in the set. But the violet that's in the signature set was much too bright and much too saturated, in my opinion, to be using for the shadows. So I just grabbed it from the other sets of pencils that I was using, which is something I encourage all the time. Another reason that I'm a huge mixed media artist and a huge mixed media fan is that it allows you to kind of group all of your products together, use many different mediums together, as long as you remember your fat over lean rule, that being that the leanest of your products go down first, or the thinnest, and then the more meaty, the fattier, or the heavier products would go on top. And typically, as long as you keep that in mind, you can throw any of your products together in order to create whatever you want. Never allow yourself to be limited, because you'll be surprised experimenting with these products together, seeing how they work, what will mix, what will blend, what won't mix, what won't blend, what will or won't layer. It causes growth. And not only that, but it opens your mind up to the possibility of what all of these things can do together. So never be scared to experiment, to kind of go out on a limb and give things a try. After all, it's only a piece of paper. You can always grab another one and try it again if you don't like your first attempt. Now, here you'll see where I'm putting in that shadow with that pencil. I tend to use really, really sharp pencils when I'm doing this, mainly because I want to keep really thin lines. Now, I'm not one of those people that will sharpen my pencil a lot. I only sharpen them when I have to, mainly because I'm trying to preserve as much of the lid as I possibly can. And there are times when I'm coloring with my pencils where I will rotate my pencil as I color, which is kind of helping to keep the pencil lid sharp, which will lessen the amount of time I actually need to sharpen it in a electric sharper or a manual pencil sharpener. A couple of quick things that I really enjoyed was that these Crayola signature pencils, without giving away too much before I get to the review, which again, as a reminder, is dropping this Friday. So go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell if you haven't, so that you don't miss it when it drops. But one thing I will throw out is that the signature pencils, in my opinion, are a softer beast than the regular Crayola pencils. Now, if you've ever used regular Crayola color pencils, you know that they actually are really, really decent for the price and for the market that they target. But the signature set, which was released a few years ago, in my opinion, is a step up from the regular Crayola pencils. Now, whether or not they're worth it and all those good things, we'll worry about talking about that when we get to the review. But I do want to throw out that they are softer and they were harder on the hand. I mean, less hard on the hands. I had less fatigue coloring with one of the signature pencils than I've noticed in the past coloring with just a regular Crayola color pencil. I also throw out, Crayola makes a color pencil called Twistables, which I really believe are completely slept on because it really looks like a product that's for kids, but it basically has a plastic barrel with color pencil lid on the inside that you basically twist to get the lid to come down out of the barrel. But it is so soft and creamy. Beautiful pencil. I actually prefer those over the regular Crayola pencils. Not quite sure how I prefer them to the signature just yet, but I'll talk about all of that in the review video. That just happened to cross my mind, and I just wanted to throw it out there because so many times I've heard people go, Crayola? Well, yeah, because Crayola actually makes some pretty decent products, all the way down to their watercolors. Don't get me wrong, they're not fine art watercolors. They're definitely fun art watercolors. But for for what is worth, I can't talk. For what is worth, they are a pretty decent product, and they will get you through a painting. Just like the regular Crayola color pencils are a decent product and they will get you through a drawing or illustration. I mean, are they going to perform like your polychromos? Probably not. Definitely not. But they will work. So never be shame about your supplies. Humble supplies can lead to the best of illustrations. So never, never, ever, ever be shamed about that. Now, at this particular point of the video, I have covered everything with the base layer of color. I've added in all of the places that I wanted to add the shadows, which gave me my lightest value and my darkest value. Now, the only thing I needed to do was to go back and adjust the actual color of the little marshmallow candy to make sure that everything just kind of stood out bright, seemed whole and round. You could see the detail, the dividing definition between each color, but I still wanted it to be really saturated and bright and punchy. So I'm going in and I am adding an additional layer of color to each section, pressing firmer and harder than I did before. That way I'm getting much better coverage. But I'm still not completely covering all of the tooth of the paper because I know there's a chance I may want to layer something on after this. I'll also back up for just a second and throw out, you will notice that this is a color pencil project that I'm doing on watercolor paper. Specifically, this particular project. One of the things I noticed about the reference photo is that the marshmallow candy, had the marshmallowy texture to it. Holes here and there. It seemed to be kind of bumpy or what have you. And I thought to myself that since I was using colored pencils, what would be one of the easiest way to pull off that particular texture without having to put in too much work? And then it hit me. Well, let's use a 100% cotton cold pressed watercolor paper. Just a regular old watercolor paper, because the texture would be coarse enough or toothy enough to give me that look of the marshmallow without me having to put in any extra work at all. Then the other upside to that is because it was a mixed media paper, I now had the opportunity to use wet media on it as well. And the paper would be able to take it and sustain it without disintegrating or falling apart. Then, of course, the final step is going to be oil pastels. So the watercolor paper, even with all of the colored pencil that I applied to it, still remained toothy enough for me to be able to add that oil pastel in, um, and yeah, come up with a really decent illustration. I'm going to be honest, I was kind of happy with this one. I was kind of happy with the way it came out. Now, what I'm doing now is adding in the background. The illustration has sort of this light purple background, so I put down quite a bit of water and then mix some, I want to say it's dioxazine violet from my Mission Gold set, which you guys know happened to be my favorite watercolor brand. And I just used it to paint the background around the candy. Now, here is the wonderful thing about using color pencils, specifically a wax-based color pencil in your mixed media work. If you use it as the first layer, be sure it's not something that you want to add a water-soluble product to, because it creates a resist. And as you can see, I was able to paint all around the candy without ever being concerned with messing up the actual illustration, because the wax created a barrier and basically blocks out the water. All you need to do is just grab you a paper towel and kind of, dab off the color pencil area. I don't really think I did that though. I think I just kind of ran a brush over it until everything was smooth, and then I gave it time to dry. So that color pencil is a great way, especially a wax-based one, it's a great way to create a resist for your watercolor and your gouache. That's just like a little extra added bonus there. Once that dried, now I'm going in with bleed proof. This is Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white, which I'm putting in the little design that's on the table that the candy is sitting on. Now, when I was painting in the watercolor section, you were able to see that I had those really darky, splotchy puddles at the bottom of the paper that seemed to kind of have soaked or sunken into the paper. That is where the sizing had gone bad. But as you can see here, once it dries completely, you can barely tell. And then once I went in with the gouache and started to add the little detail to the actual table, it kind of took away from it a little more. Now, FYI, I will throw it out here. I wish I had put more saturation into the purple in the background and being a little bit more particular with the way my lines or the grid on the table actually lined up, because it made my candy look more like it was sitting in fabric that was sinking in from the weight of the candy versus sitting on a table. But nonetheless, I liked it. I did. After everything was said and done, I'm going to finish everything up with adding a little oil pastel on top just to punch up the color a little more. And mainly because I've been taking this oil pastel course by Lindsay the Frugal Crafter, which is a wonderful course, by the way. If you have not heard of it, definitely go to her channel, her Teachable School, and check it out. And I had the oil pastels just sitting there kind of handy. So I figured, hey, why not? It's mixed media. Let's throw some of this on. So I just found those pastel colors that match from the softest set I have, which is the Mark Extra Soft Oil Pastels. Oh my goodness. Such an amazing, super creamy and soft spreadable product. Very budget friendly, very affordable. I have talked about them 2 years in a row as my #1 recommended budget oil pastel set, both this past Thrifty Pastel month and the previous year. And as of right now, as far as budget pastels go, not professional, as far as budget pastels go, these are still the softest ones, even softer than Mungio, even softer than any of the ones white labeled by Mungio. These are super creamy, super soft, just like lipstick spreadable. So definitely, and super affordable. Super affordable. So check them out if you're looking for a place to start with oil pastels, or you're just looking for a set that is extremely soft that you'll use as like your last layer when you're doing an oil pastel painting. Definitely go check them out. Check them out. So once everything was said and done, friends, I grabbed a purple or a violet that matched my shadows, and I enhanced that. And at this point, I'm adding in the black line to remove the tape and all of those good things. Friends, it was my pleasure sharing this with you today. Hopefully I didn't ramble on about needless things too much and that you picked up on something either from what I was saying or from what you watched in the video that is going to help you in your artistic journey. If you did, please don't forget to sprinkle a little love, give the video a thumbs up. If you choose to, you can share the video because it's caring and it will get it in front of other viewers like yourself. Don't forget to comment. Let me know what you think. And definitely, as I said earlier, subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know when we go live and when we upload. You can check the video description for all of the relevant links, my friends. And remember, as I tell you at the end of every single video, whether we're coming or going, I artsy love you. And remember to just keep creating.